What's going on, guys? Hope you're all doing well. I know it's been a quick minute since I've recorded a video, but you know, coronavirus, can't do much about it. Parts I'm still waiting on for the Skyline behind me, so it looks pretty sad at the moment, but what can you do? But today I'm actually really keen, even though it is like 33 degrees outside and it's really hot, but that's alright because we are putting a 2-inch lift in my ute finally. So basically, I'm just going to go through the video. It's not going to be a how-to, it's just going to be putting it in because there actually already is a really good video on how to do it on a D22. But basically what happened was that I had the stock suspension and then I ended up buying some parts secondhand off a guy on the Central Coast, which there'll be a video on that later. And then he had a 2-inch lift sitting there and I got it for cheap and I was like, why not? Chucked it in and yeah, well, it was shit, so here we are. And basically I went with the Fulcrum kit, which I'm going to show you in a second. Reason being is that, you know, it doesn't seem too bad from what I've read about it, but also because it's about $300 to $400 cheaper than the next decent lift kit I guess you can get for the ute. So all up it cost me $850 and that was including shipping. Took about a couple weeks to come, but that, like I said, coronavirus, can't get the parts. They're the leaf springs there. They're 0 to I think 200 or 250 kilos. They're just the base springs, nothing heavy duty or anything like that. 4 leaves and 1 really thick helper at the bottom. And then basically in this box here we've got the U-bolts, all the bushings which I have to put in, and basically all the shocks. So I'm pretty keen to get stuck into it, to be honest. Not gonna lie, the ute ride's like shit. Basically my ass feels every bump in the road ever, and I know it's an old car, it's not going to be, you know, super comfy, but at the moment it is terrible, so let's fix it. So basically, old shock, new shock, and yes, before everybody has a whinge, I know the springs and the shocks in there at the moment that were from the cheap 2-inch lift. They're way too heavy duty for my application, and that's why they rode like shit, so just get that over with. I was impatient, I just wanted to give it a go, and obviously it didn't work, so here I am. So basically, even when I had the stock shocks in, they were terrible. The car's just old, what do you expect kind of thing. So basically, if I push this in with one hand, and it doesn't even go up. So yeah, it's great. And then here you have the new shock. I can't even push it down with one hand. Just can push it down with 2 hands. And then it shoots straight back up, so it actually works, which is great because then some of the dampening from the bumps will be nice with this thing. Alright, so it is just me doing the work and filming, so it's a little bit difficult, but I'll just quickly run you through what I'm going to do. So basically I'm going to take the pin out of the handbrake over here. You've got your pin in here, so there's a nut on the other side of that you need to take off. So you do that first, and then you take out the guide, and then the shocks, there's 1 bolt up the top, 1 bolt at the bottom, and then on your shackles there's 2 bolts here. Just take the nuts off, and then I have to push all the bushings in, the new suspension, which is pretty boring and I doubt anybody wants to watch that. But yeah, so basically I just take it out, push the new bushings in, and then just swap it back in. Probably the hardest thing I found last time doing it was just getting the front pin in, but I think I might try and just do that one first and then do the back one. And then also I'll just obviously undo the U-bolts, take off the bump stop, and then I'll drop the diff with the jack and everything should slide down, and when everything's loose the spring should just fall out. These are both 19s. Then from there, the bit of your shackle comes out, and then after that all you have to do is hit your spring out. There's just 19s for your U-bolts. So literally all I've done right now is I've used the jack to drop the diff. So this breather comes off, so I just gotta remember to put that back on. But what that does is, hopefully you can see in there, it separates the spring, leaf spring from the diff, from like the locator pin. And then from that dropping, it pulls out the shackle up here. So I can basically just bang that out and the back of the spring will come out. Now all I have to do is, because mine's a little bit stubborn, just whack the end of that that bolt out and this whole guide will come straight out. Alright, so I didn't film getting the leaf spring out because one, it's heavy as fuck, and two, I'm by myself, so I can't really film and get it out because I only have two hands. But basically, when I just used when I loosened everything and I dropped the diff, I just used a plank of wood and a hammer and just hit the pin on this side, and then it eventually just came out like that, and then that's the pin there. I had greased it up previously, so it came out easier. The last time I had to do this, that pin took me a long time to get out. I ended up having to use like a torch, like a butane torch kind of thing, and ended up having to torch the bushing that was inside it, melt that, and then hit it out. I just took the shackle out as well, because in the Fulcrum kit they give you all new shackles, and you just have to put them together because they're all greasable. And then in here you've got your box of all your bushings, and they supply the grease and instructions on how to do that. So I'm not going to go through that obviously because that's pretty boring, but these are the leaves that came out of it. So as you can see, they're just way too big. They're like 7 leaves, so they're just way too heavy duty, so I'll be selling those. All the bushings are still good. Those are the new ones there. Obviously 4 leaves, 1 helper. Bit more lightweight, but still get the job done. And then all my shocks here. You can, something I didn't mention before was that the difference between the shock, the stock shocks and the Fulcrum ones, is like even the thickness. Like this Fulcrum shock is really really thick, so it's really good for cooling, and the stock shock is really thin, so that'll definitely help. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, I can say all this crap, but at the end of the day, they got to test it out. So hopefully maybe next week I'll be able to take it out to the tracks and have a go and see how it performs. Alright, so after about 20 minutes, I've greased up all the shackles. They're all put together, all the grease nipples are tightened down, etc. And then I've also greased up all of the bushings, just with the supplied grease. And basically there's 2 sizes, the small size and the big size. It all gives you the which is which on this table of contents. Has all the part numbers for it and whatever. That's actually stamped onto the bushing, all the instructions. Pretty straightforward. And then what I've done here is put the big bushings in the front eyes of the leaf spring. I've also put the steel tube, greased everything up. That's all in both of them. And now what I'm doing is I'm just taking the bushings out of the eyes. Hopefully you can see that on the chassis. And then I'm going to put those 2 of those little ones in there. So I figured nobody would want to watch me grease holes for 25 minutes, and then if you do, you're probably on the wrong website. But as you can see now, they're all put together. Alright, so after mucking around, basically got everything in. What I ended up doing, I started with the back and those bushings up there, got all them in, and then ended up lining up the front one. That went in, and then after that I put the bump stop on, then I put the U-bolts on, then just finger tight from the bottom. Everything's finger tight, by the way, because when I drop it down I'll do it up. And then the spring is locked in with the locating pin. Obviously I've just done the 2 bolts for the shocks there, and then just put the zip tie to hold the boot on, and yeah, we're all good. So now I'll probably just time lapse the other side because it's literally exactly the same. A little bit of problem I did have last time was with the fuel tank. But now I think I might be able to get that 1 bolt, but I'll show you what I'm talking about in a second. So the only thing I had a problem with last time on this side was this nut here, because the fuel tank's so close. But now if I get a ratchet spanner on it, might be able to get it off. I broke through, but now I realize it's not where or what I thought it was. Just in the water, figuring fingers and just it all went in. I didn't really bother filming the other side that much. I didn't feel like there was more point. It's literally the same as the other side, except that one bolt which ends up using a ratchet spanner to get out. But if you can't get it out with a ratchet spanner, then you're gonna have to move the tank over a little bit, which I did last time, which was shit. So what I've done now, I've sat the car down with everything finger tight, and then I just went around and tightened everything up. On the instructions on the Formula Fulcrum kit, it actually gives you the torque specifications for the front and rear leaf springs, and then obviously you just do the rest, the shocks, the U-bolts, and then torque your wheels back on and you're all good. So now we're going to move to the front. I'm not doing torsion bars, I'm just doing the shocks at the front. I'm just keeping the stock torsion bars because I don't have a winch or a steel bull bar, got an alloy, so it doesn't weigh anything basically. But yeah, I'll show you guys how I'm going to do the front. I found the front pretty easy to do. All I did was a pair of vice grips on the top, and then basically 14mm spanner on the nut, and then push one way, push one the other way, it gets loose. And then all it is this bolt down here. So it's getting quite dark right now, but I finally got the passenger side front shock in, and I'm not going to lie, it was a bit more pain than the last time, especially this bottom bolt down here. Basically what had happened was that when I tightened the last one, it had brought those two metal, hopefully you can see that there's two metal like retainers there, and then you put the bolt, the shock in the middle and the bolt through all three of them. Basically that like closed when you tightened it, so that when I went to put this shock in, it was too close, and then the shock was hitting, the bushings were hitting on top of the retainers. But ended up just punching them out a bit and then getting the shock in finally, and then I'll just hop over to the other side and then I'll show you the end result. So basically, now that I've finished the lift, it's a new day. As you can probably tell, it got really dark last night, hence why I didn't film too much of the front. But it's the next day now, and basically what I'm going to do is work out the corners of the car with the heights, and then basically adjust them accordingly with torsion bars, raising the front up and down. So I did take measurements way back when I had no lift in it at all, so I had the stock suspension in it. So I've just got them here. Basically my passenger front was 490mm, my driver's front was 480mm, my driver's rear was 505mm, and my passenger rear was 510mm. So after the lift, and you gotta remember I mucked around with the torsion bars before when I had the old 2-inch lift, so this will be the new 2-inch lift. So now I actually want to make it perfect. So I'm just going to be measuring from the middle of the hub to the guard. That's just the way I do it. So if we do that, it's about 555. 570 on that one. So now, after the new lift we just put in, the passenger front is 555mm, the driver's front is 520mm, the driver's rear is 540mm, and the passenger rear is 570mm. So basically what that means is that I need to lower the passenger side, because it's actually, I think it like equates to about like, especially in the front, that's like a 65mm difference, when it, obviously 2 inches is 50mm. I'm going to lower the passenger side, and I'm actually going to slightly raise the driver's side, because that's only giving about 40mm of lift. Just to make it a bit easier so you can see what I'm working with, basically you can see that's the upper control arm and there's the bump stop there, okay? So theoretically I'm read it should be about 10 to 15mm between the upper control arm and the bump stop. The way I've got it now, that's definitely not 10 to 15mm. That's probably about 5mm. So that's why I'm raising the passenger side. And then if we hop over to the driver's side, hopefully you can see in there, the bump stop has, I would say, about 20mm. That's why I'm going to be raising this side a little bit, just to get it to around 10 to 15. Because the shit thing is, you know, everybody wants a really high ute and they want to make it, you know, raise it really high and look staunch or whatever, which is great. But at the same time, you have no droop if you raise it too high. So if those bump stops are any less than 10 to 15mm from the control arm, which is like the other side. What I found when I was driving was that there's literally no droop. So when you go into a pothole, especially when I'm going to be towing the Skyline, the front is going to be coming up because you're loaded at the back, and that is terrible because one, that's probably bad for traction, and two, it's just a shit ride. Like, you didn't put in really good suspension and brand new suspension just to make it ride like shit by raising the car way too high, not what it's supposed to be. So as much as I would like to have it like a really staunch look, at the end of the day, it's a D22 Navara. It's not a 6-inch lifted Ranger, and I need to make it practical as well. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna raise the driver's side and lower the passenger side, so it's got the 10 to 15 mil between the up control and the bump stop, and it's got that 50 mil of lift all around. Probably quite hard to see, but that bolt there is the one that I need to tighten, and then basically, man, that's hard to see, but there's two nuts here. I need to take the top one off and then hold the bottom one while I'm winding, and then that'll be able to raise this side, and the other side I'll just do the opposite. Alright, so I've finished all the suspension. I've put everything in now. This is being filmed a little bit later from the last clip just because I wanted to test everything out and give my honest opinion. So this will be like the on-road opinion, and tomorrow I'm actually going and filming a bit of an off-road thing to see how it goes. There also is one main difference that I made a change to the car, and you probably spot it straight away, but let's have a look at it. So that's it. That's the 2-inch lift in. The back is higher than the front, like a Ute should be. And then I also have the addition of my new tyres from Black Bear, basically 32-inch, so 265 75 16s on just your typical Steely Sunraysia rim, 16x8, 0 offset. I've seen a lot of people on the forums try and decide if they want plus 20 or 0 offset to see the amount of poke, but basically, since the standard rim is plus 40, you can see from here that only the sidewall is just sticking out of the guard, but the actual tread's inside, which is perfect because it keeps it legal, because that's what we want. But yeah, overall, I've been really happy with the lift. It's been like so much more comfortable than the standard suspension. It drives on road, it handles really well, it drives really well, it goes over the bumps really well. What I really want to test out is tomorrow when we go off-road, because I also want to test the wheels, the tyres as well, to see how they go. But basically the story behind the tyres is that Sam Miles actually did a giveaway not too long ago, and I actually won an $800 voucher, which is crazy because I've never won anything before. So this is what I chose to get the $800 voucher for the tyres, and Black Bear hooked it up with some really nice muddies. They gave me a really good price for them as well, and Prestige Auto and Tyres at Marrickville sourced me the rims, fit everything up, wheel balance and everything, gave me a really good price for that as well. So I appreciate everybody. I wouldn't be able to get the tyres because I wouldn't be able to afford them without that voucher, to be honest, so I really do appreciate it. I think the Ute looks absolutely awesome. So yeah, super happy with it. So just to fit the 32s, what we've had to do is we just chopped some of the guard liner out. They obviously moved the caster forward as much as they could, but it was still scrubbing on full lock, so we took the mud flaps off as well. And I don't know if you can see in there, but we just got a hammer and kind of just bent this bit back a little bit. I mean, it needed to be done. I wanted to get it to fit properly and not to scrub, so that's what we have to do. And at the end of the day, it's not an expensive car, so you can do things like that. But I think the black on the silver looks awesome. I'm so keen to test it out as well tomorrow. But yeah, it just gives us, the wheel offset gives so much more of a staunch look as well. From the front, it just really feels the wheel wells. I reckon it looks awesome. So, stoked. So if you stayed around for this long, I really do appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed this video of the 2-inch lift. My opinion is it rides really well on road, but the real test is tomorrow when I take it off-road. And also big thanks to Black Bear, Sam Miles and Prestige Auto and Tyres for hooking me up with the wheels and tyres. I think they look awesome and I can't wait to test them out. Cheers guys.